Hi, welcome to the Grease Den. My name's Brad. I like to shoot out high gain amp heads. I do speaker reviews, overdrive pedal reviews. I do guitar demos with pickup swaps and different types of wiring and stuff. But I mostly like to shoot out high gain amp heads. Seems like that's what you guys like the most too. So I'm trying to go through my collection here, and this is one of my favorite amps. This is actually an amp that I've had longer than all my other amps, pretty much, that I currently own. But yeah, this is the Diezel Einstein. Diezel Einstein, I think, was started to be made around 2005. It's technically a 2-channel amp, but it has 3 modes on channel 1, which go from a really clear bell-like clean tone all the way up to a high gain signal with mode 3. Mode 3 is kind of designed to sound like a VH4 channel 3, so has a lot of tonal variety on this amp. I'm a pretty big fan of the Diezel aesthetic. The size of this head box is like pretty much perfect, as well as this grill is very interesting. How you can, like, you know, I like to be able to see into the chassis. But yeah, this amp has been modified by Alex at Science, who modifies a lot of my amps. It features a push-pull knob on the volume control on channel 1, which enables it to basically, well, let me explain that there is a bit of compression in a Diezel preamp circuit across all the amps in the range. So that includes the Herbert, the D-Mol, the VH4. They all have a little bit of compression to them, which can be really nice, but it can also be really a little bit limiting as far as like the types of tones you can pick up on. So I like to use it sort of out when I'm cranking the amp, and I'll push it back in usually for if I were playing at low volumes. So the stock tone is what we'll be using for the earlier part of the video here, and then I'll demonstrate as I go along kind of the differences that it'll make with the with this little I call it a stiffness mod, pulled in and out. So yeah, yeah, you know, channel 1 has more versatility. Channel 2 is more saturated, and it has more gain stages. Basically, you also have your depth and presence stock controls here. You have 2 channel channel volumes right here, and 2 separate master volumes. So this amp came stock fully loaded with a lot of features that you would pretty much have to pay extra for on other amps. At the time, there was really not a ton of options. You had your Ingles, your Bogners. I mean, a lot of the same options as today, but you know, you had an amp here that was cheaper than a VH4 and had a lot of the same tones and features available. Just no MIDI switching or anything like that, but doesn't really need it. Like I said, it is one of my favorite amps, so I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you guys. Let's take a closer look at some of the controls. I really dig how the relays sound in this. You know, you can really hear the relay in there, like clicking through. The design of the Diezel knobs is really unique. I believe that Peter Diezel had a dog named Einstein, and that's why there are these paw prints here. Yeah, as you can see, you got your 2 masters, standard tone stack, 2 channel volumes, 2 gains, and then you have your 3-way mode switch right here. So mode 1 is clean, mode 2 is like a Texas crunch, and mode 3 is like a high gain Marshall. Channel 2 is like an even higher gain Marshall. So take a little look around the back here. I really like the size of this head shell. It's a little bit thick, but it's just has a really nice form factor that I like. All right, so this is the back of the Diezel Einstein here. We have dedicated outputs for each ohms selection. So you could run two 16 ohm cabs here, or two 8 ohm cabs, single 16. This is preferable to a ohm switch because it's less likely for you to have any kind of a break or damage to the switch, which would then cause damage to your output transformer. So this is a much safer, more reliable setup. You have a line out, okay? You have a parallel effects loop here, so you could, with a blend knob, so you can actually blend in your effects like reverb, delay, you know, compression, whatever. You can blend it in, which is very unique. Never seen that in another amp. And then the serial loop, which is a standard effects loop, so your entire signal passes through the stop boxes. And then here you have your tube fuses, which are used for biasing the amp. This amp is user biasable, and as you can see, these are the bias points, and the potentiometers are down in here. There is a procedure for biasing this, okay? And it is printed right there. It's also detailed in more detail in the manual, which I would recommend reading thoroughly if you're gonna do anything like this. Otherwise, take it to a professional. And you have two possibilities for two switches. You can switch between the two masters and the two channels. Unfortunately, you can't switch between the modes or the gain level on channel 1. Otherwise, this would be a true 4-channel amp. Although there are elaborate mods out there for achieving that. Yeah, this is a really well-made amp. It has a choke over there. You can't quite see it, but it has a standard choke behind the power transformer here. Okay, they're not like oversized, but it sounds massive. I like these sort of lay flat, you know, transverse, whatever transformers. It's kind of different. Mine has KT77s in it, JJs. It's a very three-dimensional sounding tube with a lot of smooth mids. I really like them. I've also had 6L6s in here before, which had, you know, extended bottom end and sort of scooped sounding. And you can put EL34s in it, you know, for that effect. So it's very versatile. If you like tube rolling, this is a great platform for that. But I've settled on the KT77 since that seems to be what Peter Diezel recommends, and I just like the way they sound a lot. They're very three-dimensional and very cool tube. So, all right, so my signal setup, as usual, I'm using my Soldano 4x12. It has V30s and H75s and an X pattern. There's an SM57 on each of those speakers. Right where the dust cap meets the cone, and they are hard panned left and right. My pedal board looks really complicated, but it's actually very simple. My signal comes into the tuner, and then it goes into this looper, American Loopers pedal, which splits the pedal board into two, with the top part being my overdrive pedals and the bottom half being everything from the drop pedal over. And the top 3 pedals right here exist within an effects loop inside of the Fryette power station, which I'll be using a little later in this demo to demonstrate the tone of the power amp section of the Einstein. All my amps run through an in-audio 8x7 switcher, where the power station is in the attenuator loop of that. And the microphones are going into a Scarlett 18i20 on the front side of it, where the good preamps are, if you believe that. The ones in the front are better. I just heard about that, so tell me in the comments if you think the preamps on the front of this preamp are better than the ones on the back. I think they sound the same. So yeah, and then it all ends up in Cubase, and there's 0 post-processing. All right, so today I'm going to be playing my 1985 BC Rich Ironbird. This is like my favorite guitar, and it sounds really good. Yeah, I'm going to start off on channel 1, mode 3. So we'll demo the high gain tones first.
Right now I've got it set up pretty much how I usually do. The mid's kind of neutral and the treble is highly kind of boosted. And yeah, let's just see what this sounds like. There's no pedals on right now, it's just straight into the amp. It's got a very smooth tone, I would describe it as, especially just without the mod engaged. It really has a lot of compression naturally. I think that was kind of part of what drew me to this amplifier, is it really had a nice sort of already produced tone out of the box, which you don't often find. But I just love the way this thing sounds. Channel 3 is meant to mimic Channel 3 of the VH4. I'm very satisfied with Channel 3's tone, especially when you boost it, you really get into like the super high gain territory. We'll do that in a minute here. I'll take some of these controls around for a second, for a spin here. Bring the gain, the gain's almost max, so bring it down. So it has a lot of bass. I've noticed that. I'm gonna go ahead and increase the gain. One thing I noticed is that right now I've got a bit of microphonics going on. I think I might have a bad tube in here. I also took the tube shields off the preamp, which was not a good idea. So yeah, we take. Let me Okay, we got a treble here. We'll give you some treble sweeping. Has a low end character similar to this, but like the bass knob is like you can turn it up all the way and it doesn't get flubby, it stays tight, but it just gains this like huge bottom end. I love the way the EQ works on this amp. It feels different than like a Marshall or a Soldano or whatever. It feels more like it's kind of somehow put in the circuit in a way to where the knobs don't really interact with each other too much. You're not gonna like blow out your mids by cranking the treble. You can just use each knob like you would on like a mixing console, you know, EQ setup. So I really dig that a lot. And this is a really well designed amp, except for like the tubes blowing a lot and a little bit of noise. It is kind of noisy. Even when it's running at like optimal, like channel 2 is very noisy. So, but it's a lot of gain. It's got like, I don't know, 6 preamp tubes, I think, or maybe 5 preamp tubes and like an effects buffer. It might even be 4, and then like a phase inverter and the effects buffer. But it's got a lot of gain stages. I think it's like 5 gain stages. So I'm gonna set this back to how I had it, and then we'll go over some of these power amp controls. Like that. Turn the depth off. Never overpowering. It's just like put right in the correct spot. I like it to be about at noon. So the presence knob, like I have it turned up pretty high right now because I just think it sounds best that way. Let's try it here. light. It sounds like you just like there's a blanket over the speakers almost. So most amps you can really put the presence around noon and they start to open up, but this one I feel like you have to kind of get it up to more like, you know, 3 or 4 o'clock to really get it to do what it needs to do. But yeah, I mostly run it up here. So before we move on to channel 2, and I'm going to circle back to modes 1 and 2 because they are lower gain channels. Mids mostly for like blues, crunch, hard rock, or even just like soft, like clean tones. So, you know, soft, clean tones. But I mean, you guys know that I like to play some like goth rock stuff, so we'll go explore those channels and I'll throw some effects on them. Before we go to channel 2, let's go ahead and mess with the mod here. Pop that out. It's going to get a little louder, but I think it'll be alright. And this should open it up a lot, and let me know what you think about the way it sounds with and without the mod in the comments. It's a bit brighter. I feel like maybe I can back off the presence a little bit. That's coming across on recording, but it definitely feels like it opens up, and it feels like it loses a little bit of saturation. So it actually kind of makes the amp a little bit less easy to play. It's a little bit hard, a little bit stiffer feel. to it, and I kind of prefer it with the mod disengaged or stock tone, at least at these volume settings. When I start to crank up the master, hopefully you'll see that, you know, controls do less when you crank the master, so the effects of some of these things is a little more subtle, and in that situation I tend to lean maybe more towards the modded tone. And it also sounds different on channel 2. I would say channel 1, mode 3 is a bit tighter than channel 2, so you know, maybe it benefits more from, you know, not having the mod on it, just being a little bit more tight compressed and saturated. But anyways, hopefully that gives you an idea what channel 1 mode 3 sounds like. I'm gonna go ahead and switch this over to channel 2. Yeah, let's just see what this sounds like. The mod is disengaged and got no boost on. We'll go back and do boosts after this. And this is channel 2. Stock Diezel tone that has like sort of a high, kind of like an upper mid honk to it. It's like a, you know, has like a bit of an upper mid honk. It's kind of rounded off in the super high top end, but it has like a bit of that upper mid push, and it sounds not boxy, but just a little bit like it has a bit of a voice to it that is sort of unique to Diezel, and I really appreciate that about this amp. That it really embodies the Diezel, like, you know, thinking. You know, it's not trying to be cool or anything. It's just, you know, it's not modest. It's just like, it is a Diezel. So, so it really has that sound. Yeah, the channel 2 doesn't really clean up super great or anything like that. Which, you know, mode 3 didn't really clean up that well either. This has a great clean channel, which we'll explore. But yeah, channel 2 I think was intended to be like the blistering lead channel. So, and the main thing that I noticed difference-wise between mode 3 and channel 2 is that it sounds like there's an extra gain stage, there's more saturation, and there's more lower mids, I would say, on channel 2. So I tend to live on channel 2 because I like a really full, balanced guitar tone when I'm playing by myself in particular, you know, so. Go ahead and engage the mod here. Okay, just gonna reduce volume slightly. So you hear what that sounds like. like on channel 2, the mod makes a little more sense. It's a little more practical. The amp is really dark, just on its own, and channel 2 is actually darker than channel 1. So yeah, I'll give you a little comparison of the two channels, of mode 3 and channel 2. So I'm gonna try now. I'm gonna add a boost to these. I do like using the Klein audio Dybbuk, so I have now engaged the Klein audio Dybbuk, and we'll try that on channel 2 to begin with. Mode 3 now. So there you have it. We'll go back through the other modes on channel 1 now. I'm going to turn off the overdrive. So you've got two other modes, all right? We got mode 2 on channel 1. sort of like a plexi tone or kind of like ballsy bassman Fender kind of thing. Still got a lot of low end. But yeah, like I wouldn't really use this for much. The clean channel, however, I find it very usable. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that. You do have to dial back the gain knob a little bit. So it's a little bit of a pushed clean until you dial it back. Then it gets to be crystal clean, like just perfect. My favorite clean tone, you guys. This is my favorite clean tone. I've never had an amp that sounded this good clean, and I think it's partly because of that little bit of that compression and that mid honkiness that it has. It just rounds out the tone. It's very good. It's very underrated. All right, so I have my Edwards John Sykes Les Paul custom. It has the Avedissian rail splitter in the bridge. And I probably forgot to mention earlier. I forgot to mention earlier that my my BC Rich has a Avedissian Kulshan in the bridge. That guitar is tuned E flat. This is an E standard. This also has coil taps, so I have coil tapped the Duncan distortion in the neck and the Trailblazer. So I'll be switching back and forth a little bit, but yeah, here you go. And I'll let you know when I engage some effects. Pitchbox and the SP compressor. transmitted than that, okay? Like, I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna switch back to my other guitar, and we'll do some demonstrating of the power amp section. We'll crank it up, basically. I do have a IR loader on the power station, so at a couple of points in this demonstration, I'll switch back and forth between the mic tone and the IR tone. But yeah, I've pretty much got this dialed in now. Both channels sound kind of similar. I noticed channel 1, mode 3, kind of pushes a little bit more low end, and channel 2 is just more saturated and compressed. So that doesn't really change much with the volume shift. You just get a little bit more bottom ends, or a little more low mids, and even more compression. So, but for the most part, the tone stays intact throughout the volume range, which is another thing I love about this amp. You can have the volume, the master turned low, and it still kind of sounds sort of cranked. And I think that's a feature having to do with this this compression in the circuit. And when I take that out, you will notice a bit of a difference, much like we did earlier. So yeah, let's get into this. We're starting on channel 2. kind of go back and forth on which one I like better. I mean, right now I'm kind of leaning towards channel 1, mode 3. A lot of people say they prefer mode 3 on channel 1. That's their favorite channel, and they don't even like channel 2. But I like them both, you know. Channel 2 is a little bit leaner, a little bit less three-dimensional, I guess. Let's try out the mod. See what effect that has. Crank the power amp, and so I like it pulled out a lot more when it's cranked. It makes it sound like less choked out and less stifled, and it really makes it come to life when you're cranked up like this into a attenuator. It really adds another element of like tweakability to this thing. I really dig. Yeah, let's compare it with on channel 2 now. Go back to the stock tone. tone on channel 2 is probably my favorite gain tone on here. Or maybe, you know, same thing with channel 1 mode 3. They're pretty close. But so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate kind of like some of the detuning. I'm just gonna use my drop pedal, and I'll drop it down to like C standard. Here we are on channel 2 with the mod engaged, and this is some sort of C standard riffing. Alright, so there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Any suggestions that you have or any feedback is appreciated. Until next time, stay greasy.